Hello and welcome to the first video of what is probably going to be a one video series excuse me, of Starcraft 2 lower league help videos. So this is a replay sent in by our friendly Terran player here. I believe his name is Gufo. He is a platinum level player who matched against our friendly Protoss player here, Wilzix. I found this replay on All Things Terran, and I've kind of done a text response to the thread. I'll link you to the thread. And I said that I would probably do more of an in-depth analysis via video. So this is kind of, I thought this was quite an interesting game for people to learn from. And hopefully I can express why I think this is an interesting game. So what I'm going to do is let you guys watch the video without pausing. We'll do that on faster time speed, and then we'll look at two things, okay? First thing will be the general build that this Terran player goes for. I think that's quite important all the time, to kind of go back into replays and kind of watch your build and how that affects your game. The second thing we're going to look at is the engagement that happens. There's like two big engagements in this game. So the first one is where I believe that the Terran player kind of loses this game, and that's what I think he believed at the time. And I think he believed it was because of Storm play. I kind of argue that point in my post. It kind of comes down to like a lot of things, as does a lot of Starcraft games, and hopefully I can kind of like break it down into good chunks so that you guys can kind of figure out how to analyze replays and how to analyze your games to kind of improve yourself and get yourself out of platinum, I guess. So first off, we're going to play the replay, as I said. So we're going to watch the production tab. I'm going to make some general comments, but I'm not going to like delve too deeply into what is happening. I'm going to leave that until later, okay? So here we go. Awesome. So right, so I see that he's like setting up screen hotkeys. Now this is really cool because I've seen a lot of people not know about screen hotkeys, and I've used screen hotkeys since I was like Silver Gold League, and I couldn't ever play without them. Yeah, they really help. So I believe he's going to throw down a gas. Now this gas was a little late, because you should be throwing that down as soon as you have 75 minerals. But that's fine. Like, that is just a general build quarrel that you could, like, it's not big. Like, at platinum level, you're allowed these little slip-ups. It's fine. So, sending some guys into gas. We're sending some sort of SUV down there. Sorry. Can't see what this guy is selecting. SUV ready. Yeah, here we go. Okay, cool. So we see a probe. This is really cool. This SUV coming here, because this SUV, this probe here might be cannon rushing. You don't know that, so you need to check. Yeah, you need to check your base. If you see a probe going into the shadows, just in case he throws down a pylon, and you need to react to that. So he's getting his orbital command. He's getting his expansion. A couple of minerals late, but that's fine. He sees the cybernetics core. Cool.
Command center upgrade complete.
Awesome. So he's muling, he's getting SCVs, he's going to throw down a barracks here, getting his Reaper. This is all good stuff. Now he sees the probe coming in. Cool. He's going to kill that probe, which denies the Protoss scouting, which is always a good thing. We don't want our opponents to see too much of our build. So he's getting his second gas. Now, I've kind of watched this replay in advance. He's going to go Cloaked Banshees. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Cloaked Banshees in this matchup, just because shield batteries are a thing. And if you have like one shield battery in your mineral line, then the Banshee just can't do any damage. And the Banshee is more of a distraction technique than anything else. But I think it's still a viable option. I mean, a lot of pro players do it, so it must be a viable opening. Complete. It just might just be me and my way of thinking that the the Banshee is not the greatest opening.
Add-on complete.
Okay, so he sees a Stalker. That's pretty standard for this time in the game. Now, one thing I will say is, like, that Reaper is kind of dead space right now. So he could be checking for a third, he could check, you know, the two positions, he could be checking along the map for pylons. There's a lot of that Reaper could be doing, but he is sat outside the opponent's base, which is quite nice actually, because he's getting scouting information. Like, this is one cool thing is, like, leaving it there is like scouting information, right? Because you'll see when his army pulls out unless he goes to the left or right. And I'll talk about that a bit later, but cool. So he sees the Stargate. Our opponent is going to be going Oracles. The Oracle won't do too much damage. And that's fine. We're not going to be talking too much about what our opponent is doing, just some general concepts. So our Terran player here has thrown down Engineering Bay. Not the biggest fan of this Engineering Bay. I feel like this should have been like a barracks with a tech lab so we can get stim or combat shield. Now he's throwing down 2 barracks and an Engineering Bay. Double upgrades on 2 bases, unless you're doing like a 1-1 all-in. Like, I feel that double upgrade should be something that you're doing when you've got 3 bases and not 2 bases. But that's, you know, we can work on that. So we've got our Banshee coming in. We see the Phoenix. Now, he hasn't got any shield batteries in the mineral line, which means that we can do damage. This is really good. But we want to get out there before his observer comes out, because the observer can see the Banshee, or he runs out of cloak and dies. Now, I will say, like, the Banshee play there didn't get, like, a lot of probes, so it may not have been worth it. But again, like, it made our opponent build units, it made them be on a defensive position, and, you know, these are all great concepts. So we're putting SCVs into gas. Now, these gases were built rather early and haven't been utilized until this point. Again, this is just a general build concept of, like, you need to be asking yourself, okay, if I build these now, do I really need them? Do I really need to be having this much gas this early in the game? And if so, what am I going to use that gas for? Okay? So, like, he's floating like 300 gas. He's probably going to get some upgrades and some medevacs, and that's going to be fine. But notice he threw down 2 more barracks and not a 3rd base. And it is 6:33 in the game. Generally, like, at higher levels, like a 5-minute third is standard, and normally that's like a scary thing for a Terran because you haven't got a lot of units, and the way that you want to be taking that third is probably in your main or natural. You have to remember with Terran command centers, they can float, Like all Terran buildings can float, apart from like a few outliers. So just don't be afraid to put it down in your main and then float it over. Okay, so we're going to be doing a bit of drop play. This is good. We haven't got any add-ons on those 2 extra barracks, and we still haven't got a 3rd base. Like right now in the game, I feel like this is a really late all-in. Okay, we're going for the 3rd base. Building some supply depots.
Additional supply depots required. Mineral field. Our SCVs are
Okay, so we can see that he's built some shield batteries. Getting some pro kills. Cancelling that 3rd, which is painful.
Research complete.
Okay, so he's invested quite a lot into cannons and defensive units in his main. So we know that the main is probably not a great place to drop anymore, right? Because he's spent quite a lot of minerals. I'll talk a bit more about this, but he's just defended his mineral line here, and that's quite important. You kind of have to remember when you're going for drops, it's quite important to remember that you don't always have to go for the throat, which is like the mineral line, okay? Like, the mineral line is like, you know, the goal, but sometimes getting a pylon, getting a gateway is like a good thing. Just distracting the opponent is like an amazing thing, because we need to, like, we need to get him spending his APM and money on things that he doesn't want to be spending his APM and money on, while we spend our APM and money on things we want to defeat him. Okay, so we're a bit oversaturated in our natural, that's fine. Building supply depots around our base. Okay. Okay, so here comes like the engagement where our Terran player thinks that he lost the game. I kind of think that he's lost the game here, but we'll kind of see some of the concepts, the micro concepts here. So we saw a probe kind of dive towards the 3rd location there. So we know that like he might have a 3rd or building a 3rd. We had some high ground, and then we kind of didn't go towards the high ground. We're moving our... Yeah, so we didn't pre-split. We didn't do any of that good stuff. Storms come down. They're quite terrifying. We kill some more units. I think the biggest thing to take away from that fight is that we didn't retreat, okay? And this is a big thing for like some lower league players. The concept that they need to know is that the fight doesn't need to end when an army is completely depleted. It can end anytime you want. If you feel that you are losing the fight, then you can back out of that fight and still have units. You don't need to keep fighting, okay? So we're getting a planetary fortress at our 3rd, not great for our economy. Really, we want to be having 3 orbital commands so that we have 3 mules every round. But we're nearly fully saturated at our 3rd, which is nice. We've got like an okay standing army, it's not great. We're getting 2 ghost academies, which is confusing to me. I'm not really sure why that's a thing. We're getting 3-3 though, so that's good. Getting armor? Okay. Not sure why we're getting that, but Getting some ghosts, as you can hear. We finally scout this third. Now we know,
Mineral field
like,
depleted.
we're a little
Base
behind
is under
here.
attack.
See the zealot attacking our potential fourth. It's good that we didn't cancel that. Got a widow mine here, cool. And our planetary fortress will defend these zealots.
Is under attack.
So extra APM doesn't have to be spent defending this attack.
Mineral field depleted. Research.
Okay, so we've got a lot of units there on move command. It's a lot of zealots. The Protoss is basically won here. Going to power through. Yep. Stim to win. Step backwards. Nice widow mine. But unfortunately, it's all over. It is all over. No GG. Goofo lie. Okay, so that was cool. Okay. So that was cool. We've kind of like saw the replay, know kind of the outline of the game, and we know who wins. Okay. And we talked about a lot of concepts there. So we talked about some build concepts, we talked about some micro concepts, we talked about some strategy concepts, and we talked, we talked about some drop concepts, and all of these things are like really in-depth topics. So hopefully I can like break these things down in a timely manner. Okay, so first off, first thing I want to do is concentrate on Gufo's build. Okay, so what I'm going to do is kind of watch his build and then go into an AI game and see if I can like improve it in some way. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is because I kind of said, okay, so his he built an engineering bay instead of a racks. Like he built 2 engineering bays on 2 bases. He didn't push to his third. He had 5 barracks on 2 bases. These were like things where I think this Terran player could improve on his building or his macro side of the game. Okay, so kind of what I'm looking at here is not like a specific like 14 supply depot, 15, like I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for here is like general concepts of the build. So we go gas first, okay? So and then we go into a barracks, then we go into a factory, into cloaked banshee. Okay, so I'm kind of going to let that part of the build play out. And we get the expansion.
Our SCVs are under attack. Command center. Additional. Add-on.
Okay, we're getting our
Center.
starport, getting our cloak, getting our banshee, and the banshee comes out at at 427. Okay, and we're building our engineering bay around the same time. Okay, so if we take this concept, okay, so the concept of this build is to kind of do some early harassment with a cloaked banshee and to kind of bring it back to a more standard bio medevac mid-game, and then play the game out from there. So what I'm going to do is quit out of the. So if I go against AI, go as my good Terran self. And what we want to do is kind of play around with those concepts a little bit and see if we can kind of clean the build up a bit, okay?
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
So, if we go in supply depot.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Building
Not enough
another
minerals.
SCV.
Not
I was
enough
a couple of
minerals.
minerals late, but as I
Not
said,
enough
like these
minerals.
things you can iron out.
Additional supply depots.
So we're getting our barracks. We've got our command center building SUVs. This is all good, right? This is kind of standard Terran play. Cool. Getting up to those glorious 15 SUVs, and then we're going to go for our orbital command. Going to go for a Reaper, and then we're going to go for our expansion.
Not enough minerals.
These are all great concepts. Awesome, awesome concepts. So the next thing we're going to do, build our factory.
Command center upgrade complete.
Build our next supply
Not
depot.
enough minerals.
This
Not
Reaper
enough
can just
minerals.
stay here for the time being. Get our reactor. Get our next
Not
gas.
enough minerals.
What's going on? Go ahead, SCV ready.
Okie dokie. Right. So all great concepts. All really good.
SCV ready.
Insufficient Vespine gas. Add-on.
SCV ready. SCV
Add-on complete.
SCV ready.
Whoa.
Build here.
Oh. Really sorry about that.
Command center upgrade complete.
SCV ready. Here. Want a piece of me, boy? SCV ready. What's going
Not
on?
enough. Not enough.
SCV ready.
Not enough minerals.
SCV ready.
Not enough minerals.
SCV ready. Go, go, go.
No.
SCV ready. SCV ready.
So instead of that engineering bay, I'm getting
Armed and ready.
another rack.
Not enough minerals.
SCV ready.
Not enough. Not enough energy.
See a probe here.
SCV ready.
Doesn't really indicate anything, but
SCV ready.
good to keep an eye out on these things. And now I'm going for that like really early third base. Okay. So now that that's a thing, I can go push for that. Okay. So nothing here shoots up. These stalkers shoot up. I can cloak. Go back here, get that. Pretend that he's got an observer. Not be too cheesy. Change these around. Okay, kind of get the concept. So we've got our 3 bases. This is really cool. And now is when we push up to where we want to be, which is those glorious 8 racks.
Not enough minerals.
What's going on? Get heavy.
Upgrade complete.
And then push towards that
Not
4.
enough minerals.
It's on.
Not enough. Research.
Want some? Yep. Kaboom, baby. This better be good. Game away. Coming through.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. Unacceptable. Mineral field depleted.
Game away.
Not enough minerals. Add-on. Not enough minerals. Not enough.
Down here. I want a piece of me, boy. Kaboom, baby.
Ba, ba, ba.
Don't leave me hanging.
I may have built those. Okay. So there's something like,
Go on.
you only ever make this mistake once, but like building racks too close to each other, it's always really funny. But seeing as we're against the AI, that's fine. So let's kind of talk through this replay and kind of like talk about some of the concepts in my replay compared to the other replay, okay? So let's take it off my vision. Let's go with everyone for a second. Okay, so there's obviously like a couple of differences here. Like the Protoss didn't go for the third base, he didn't go for Storm, but like the concepts are here, okay? So, building that gas, building that barracks, getting that obstacle command, getting the factory, getting a reactor. I actually thought at this point that I would have enough gas for the starport, so maybe this reactor was too early. But that's something that like you can play around with, though, is like cutting one thing for another thing to see if you can, like, if the earlier attack is better than the later attack, sort of thing. So, we've got like near full saturation on our mainnet, which is fine. Protoss is doing something. For some reason, my hotkey setup wanted to build a starport here. I'm not sure why. B is very close to V, so I'm not going to kick myself too hard for that. So I build a starport, get cloak. Whoops. Production. And this starport comes out at, I think, like 419, 418. I think we were saying like on the other replay it got out about 427, but that was like when it was in flight. So if we cut off like a second or two, like maybe 425 if we were being like really generous. Okay, so imagine like I didn't build the reactor first. I might cut off a few more seconds there, so it might come out at like 415 instead of 419. These are like little optimizations that you can like think to yourself, like, are they worth doing? Building a barracks instead of the engineering bay, so that I can get stim real early. Getting that third base. Now, one thing I will say is that I am quite comfortable with the 2-1-1, which means 2 barracks, 1 starport, 1 factory. You may try this build and you might lose to a 2 base all in, and you might say, oh, that Joro guy is an idiot, he didn't know about this all in. And I think what you have to remember is like, one, I probably do know about that all in because it has killed me in the past, but Starcraft is a reactionary game. Okay, I'm going to talk about this a bit later on, but it's a game about knowing what your enemy is doing and when he's pushing out and what he is doing behind his door. So it's a game about learning these things, okay? Learning what reactions people have to your build. So say for example this Protoss player goes like, 7 gate all in on 2 bases or something, or like 10 gate all in. Let's say he's going Math Zealot or something, I don't know. But that's like a kind of a piece of information that you don't know exists until it happens. And when it does happen, what you have to do is like analyze the replay and say to yourself, okay, how could I have spotted this build? Okay, so if I scanned at this point in time, I would have seen that he had too many gateways, and I could have thrown down maybe a wall at my natural. Okay, that stops Mass Zealot. Okay, maybe it's like a 7 gate all in, and you have to say to yourself, okay, how could I have scouted this? Okay, a scan at this particular time, or a marine at this position, and instead of going for a third, I should more concentrate on defending this all in. So how do I defend this all in? And the answer to that is get more barracks, more bunkers, and maybe cut SCVs a little so that you have the better foothold going into the later game there. So getting that third base, getting an engineering bay. This might be a bit late for some people. I don't mind late upgrades. I find them okay. This was a bit late. And one thing I'd like to point people's attention to is that I didn't get supply blocked a lot in this game. And the reason for that is that I had this little like nifty SCV here. And basically what I do is just say to him, like every production cycle, I check on this little guy and say, is he building a supply depot? No, let's build a supply depot, okay? And you can see like my supply is way above where I need it, like where I want it to be, because right now I'd need like 125 or something, okay? But who cares? Like I'm not getting supply blocked, and this is a massive thing because I can keep my minerals low. Look at my minerals, oh great. So yeah, pushing towards those 5 barracks while getting the economy up on my third base, which is great. Building that second starport, and then building those 3 extra racks. We kind of discovered that the positioning here was not the greatest. Maybe I should have like positioned them here. But one thing I will point out here is, and this is something that you'll see in pro games, and it's not really talked about a lot, okay? Is like the positioning of these barracks is like this bottom right to upper left, and what this does is like it makes the most out of the space that you have in your main, okay? So if you look at your main, and particularly on some maps, I can't think of a direct example off the top of my head, but you don't have a lot of space in your main, especially once you get up to like the 3 base, 8 racks. Like mech is a great example. I'm not going to go into mech right now and how to play mech, but you have to think about like units pathing out of your base. So a good way to play mech is kind of spacing the production away from each other so that the units kind of have the best path out of your base. What we found with the replay of the Platinum player is that we were building supply depots around the base. We weren't really like lowering them. You know, we kind of had barracks here and there and like really spaced out. We had engineering bays at the middle of our base. Things like this is something good to think about, because like here I've kind of placed these engineering bays at the back of my base, out of the way, okay? And my supply depots are like again at the back of my base, and the pathing for my units are literally like, say if I was a marine from here, right, I could either take this path and around like one of the supply depots, or I could go this way and around this supply depot. I'm guessing like this is the more optimal path here, but say I had like an engineering bay like right here or something, which means that the marine has to come around here and up here to here, which means like it's not a bad thing, but it means like if the Protoss player decides to attack me at my base, it'll just take that extra couple of seconds for the marine to come out, and you just have to kind of think about things like that sometimes. So, got stim, got combat shield, and here is where I push out. Okay, so normally the push out from me comes from when I put down that third base, but because he was attacking me, I felt like I didn't need to push out. So when you initially push out, basically all you need to know is, has he got a third base? He comes to attack me. But look at my production. Like, this is you know, this is like what you want. 3 bases, 8 barracks, 2 starports, double upgrades pumping away. Like, it's great. Now what we're going to do is like step back into Gufo's replay here. And times it until like he's got what he feels is like his best production. So he's going in his barracks. I want to like point some things out, but like I don't want to be too harsh on people. Like here he's not building an SCV, he's microing his Reaper. It's fine, you know, these little slip-ups are just places where you can think to yourself like, okay, here's somewhere where I can improve. He's supply blocked here, this supply depot was a bit late, again fine. Tech lab coming down. Starport coming down, moving the factory off. Flying the barracks over. Building a wall is natural. I'm not like the biggest fan of building a wall versus Protoss, because a lot of all-ins kind of ruin that. I noticed that there was quite a lot of downtime on this barracks. Again, something that can be improved. His Marines are coming here, most likely because he saw the Stargate. His Banshee's flying out, building a Cyclone. Building this Rax. As I mentioned, like, this gap here, it's just like a little inefficiency to me. Because, like, now that space here is just like it's dead space in his main, right? He can't build anything here. Like same with like this space between the barracks and the engineering bay. It's not a lot of space, but like say if the engineering base were like back here instead of like in this forward position, like he could fit another like set of barracks here. Like he could fit another set of barracks here, but like again what I was saying about unit pathing outside of the bases, like if you build barracks here, then the units have to kind of troll around here into the natural, whereas these engineering bases, they're never going to produce units, so why are they so far forward? Now one thing I will like pick up immediately is like, and a lot of people are probably screaming at me and saying, oh but Jaro, if you like build them like right here or something, you know, drops are like going to kill them immediately. And my answer to that is yes they will. It's kind of risk versus reward sort of thing. So if you built them here, like it would have been fine, right? But like building them here is like more risky. Like these are like concepts again, like just thinking about those concepts of like, is it worth building them here? Is it worth building them here? But we kind of want them out of the way and not like in the middle of our main. This is the middle of our main, like right here, but you get my point. So we're going to get 2 tech labs. Our Starport isn't doing anything. It's building a reactor, which we're going to cancel. No? Okay. I thought we cancelled this reactor for some reason. Building an armory, because we're getting 1-1. Excuse me. Getting stim and combat shield, great upgrades to have. Little oversaturated here. But, okay, pause it right here. So we've got 800 minerals right now, okay? And 300 gas. So obviously we're trying to like decrease the amount of minerals that we have. So we're building more barracks. But these barracks are like, these are really late barracks, okay? So either these barracks needed to come down like probably a minute sooner or something. Like even here we've got like 600 minerals. So if we back up even more, we've got 400 minerals, and we're building these barracks. So even here, we could have like expanded. We've got 400 minerals, we've got 300 minerals. So like, just slow it down for a couple of minutes. So with floating 400 minerals, like we could expand, we could expand, we could expand. Instead we build an engineering bay. We could expand, we can expand, we can't expand, we can expand. You know, it's just like thinking to yourself, when the minerals are getting a little high in replays, why are they getting that high? Did you not build production buildings quick enough? Did you not like did you forget something, get supply blocked? These sorts of things. These barracks were hideously late, and these, as I've mentioned before, that's 120 minerals, I believe, just lying, doing nothing right now. Yeah, we can expand, we can build barracks, we can do a lot with this money. We don't, we're still not doing anything. Still not doing anything. See what I mean? There's like a minute or two when these minerals are like really high. We could have expanded. Like there's nothing against us expanding right now. And this is like where my eyes are right now, is like locked on to these minerals. We're building missile turrets. Why are we building missile turrets? We've seen one oracle. Again, Starcraft is a game of like reactionary stuff. So if we've only seen one oracle, why do we need 2 missile turrets? So we've got 600 minerals. My eyes are locked here. Just like, please build something. Build a command center. Build 3 barracks. He's building an armory, but our minerals are still high. Now he builds 2 barracks, and you can see that the minerals are still high. Yeah, this to me was like the one thing that I was staring at for a good like 2 minutes, and they're massively high. So this says to me like either the production buildings need to come down way sooner than they were, or you need to expand. Okay, expand much sooner. So okay, we're ignoring the minerals. Okay, so we've got a tech lab. The tech lab is not being used. Could it be used for something else? We've kind of got this reactor on a factory. Are we really going to be using that? That's like 50 mineral, 50 gas, kind of dead weight. Like we can build widow mines. I'm not sure if our Terran player does, but these are like, you know, again, these are just concepts. Like instead of building the barracks here, you could have built 1 barracks here with the tech lab pre-installed, so that stim would like probably be done by now. Instead of building a tech lab on a barracks that was just built. We've kind of got 1-1, but awkwardly enough we haven't got enough gas to go 2-2, and we're not even pushing for 2-2, so this armory is a bit of dead weight. I'm not sure if we ever get 2-2. I know that we go for like the vehicle and ship plating for some reason. I'm not sure why that's a thing. Like especially against Protoss, like the only upgrade from here you should be getting against Protoss is probably ship weapons. Ship weapons is probably better than armor. I wouldn't quote me on that, but trying to not. So this is actually an okay positioning for the supply depots, because like here we're not like opening ourselves up to drops or anything, but they're still out of the way, which is quite nice. The one thing I will say is, like, if you do get dropped, you can almost like, if you build the supply depots in a certain way, you can almost make a maze out of them, which makes the drop like harder to get at your SCVs. But that's like a really high level concept, and I wouldn't like worry too much about it. But you have to remember, like, all of your buildings serve a purpose, right? And again, like, there's a little tiny gap between these two barracks that is like dead space. Like a supply depot could have gone here, like an engine, you know. The units have to like crawl that extra like half a second, and sometimes that's all it takes, is like half a second to just like lose the game. I think an add-on can go here, so that's fine. But again, like, we've got these two barracks, they haven't got add-ons. I feel like we've got two tech labs, we've got a reactor. This should probably be like reactor tech lab, because we've got 5 barracks. Yeah, reactor tech lab. And then this should be building marauders. This should be building 2 marines instead of 1 marine. Still not getting 2-2, so this armory is like, it's completely dead weight to me right now. Just going to take a drink, I'll be right back. Not building supply depots. We're a couple of supply ahead of where we need to be, so that's fine for now. Well, we're probably going to get supply blocked. We did build 1 widow mine. 2 widow? Yeah, 2 widow mine. But again, this reactor, not really doing much. We're finally getting a tech lab and a reactor onto here. Nice choice. But this would have could have been like much sooner. This command center is just too late, in my opinion. Way too late. So we've got units queued up. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. Okay, not queuing up units is a very high level concept. So one thing I will say is, like, a lot of pro players like to build like a supply depot right here and like rally the units to the supply depot. This means, like, if the supply depot gets destroyed, like, your units will rally to your main. There's a bit more APM to kind of like select them out of here and like put them here after the supply depot is destroyed. But it's definitely worth it, because it means that these units here are probably going to get lost, and the next best position to defend is here, and then the next best position to defend is here. So you're basically trying to get the Protoss to spend too much time destroying this and then defend well here. Okay. So we've kind of got 5 barracks, floating a lot of minerals. We could have had like 3 more barracks, could have had another starport. Our starport's not doing anything. Again, bit of dead weight with, oh, we did get 2-2 in the end. We're now getting 3-3. This is when the Protoss has got his 4th base, his 3rd base. What? The upgrades, 2-2. Okay. And now we're hideously oversaturated on our 3rd, trying to push for a 4th, and we know that doesn't go well. Best way to sum this up is that there are a lot of inefficiencies in this build. The 2 Ghost Academies. Again, it's all about like trying to find these small little wins, like this reactor, this tech lab, this factory not doing anything, like just these small concepts. Okay. So, let's say that you are a Terran, you are in the position of our friend here. Say like 9 minutes. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so you're in this position, okay? As a Terran player, you've kind of like made a lot of mistakes back at home. You haven't scouted this third base by the Protoss. And, you know, you're kind of going for this attack. This attack is actually a really strong attack, okay? Against this army, with the 5 High Templar, which is a lot of High Templar, this should be a close fight. With Storms, it's kind of difficult to judge sometimes, because like one glorious storm can kind of like ruin a Terran's day. But I think it should be like a close fight, okay? So, kind of come over here, we destroy the status ward, which is fine, okay? So, let's kind of analyze the engagement, okay? And then we'll kind of go back and like talk about more core concepts like scouting and, you know, drop play and things like this. So here comes like the big battle, which I believe and he believed is the one place where he lost the game. I agree with him. Okay, so we kill a pylon, good. Kill another pylon. Okay, this right here is the first big mistake from our Terran player, okay? Is that right here on this ramp, we don't quite have it yet, but on this ramp, we have high ground vision. Now the Protoss can see us on this ledge, but we know from our Terran's position, Terran's view, that the Protoss army is here, okay? Like, here's the Protoss army, we can see it. So, excuse me, why would you not take your army, move command it, say here, and then take this chunk of the army, spread it over here, this chunk of the army, spread it over here, and then this slice that I didn't select, just like throw it into the mineral line, put the Liberator just on the ramp, and basically there's a lot of concepts going on here, okay? I'll try to like break them down when they become appropriate. But the first big one is that you're trying to force an engagement, okay? You're trying to put like a timer on the Protoss to attack into you. The way to do this is to, you know, destroy something precious of him. So you want to be like killing probes, killing a nexus, killing a gateway. Obviously Protoss are not in favor of you doing these things. They want you to stop you. They want to stop you doing these things. So you're kind of putting a timer on the attack that you're doing. It's like, either you stop me or I'm going to win. Okay? So one big thing here is that we probably could have destroyed this nexus. one big thing I will point out is that if like a bit of your army is focusing on the Nexus and not the fight, that means that we lose DPS, okay, in the fight. But we kill a Nexus, which is amazing, right? And we have high ground vision. Like, we have the high ground. If we push onto here, we have high ground, and we're more likely to win this fight. And like, even if we had an arc, like a U shape or like a C shape, so our units basically like came along here, around here, up here, that like, or maybe even closer to the ramp, like around here, like around this pylon, around there, okay? So we're coming here, here. That is like the prime position here. Is like this big arc of units is what we're aiming for. So I think this is like the first big mistake from our Terran player with the micro, is that he should have taken advantage of this high ground vision and put a timer on our Protoss player by attacking this Nexus, or attacking the probes, or attacking something. By moving back here, he's kind of in this open field, which is better to fight against storms with, but is worse because we're not going to put pressure on our Protoss player. Now, our Protoss player still pushes into us, but that was more his mistake. So we kind of pushed him into making a mistake, which is good, I guess. Okay. So, we kind of see this army. Okay, so one thing about Starcraft you should know is that you should take full advantage of the surrounding environment. So these are collapsible rocks, okay? So we can actually gain a ton of time here, because if we destroy one of these rock towers, both of these rock towers are going to like cover this entire section here. So if we kill this, like the Protoss player can't attack through here. He'll have to go around, and that gives us so much time to do things. Like, just like stim into here, like stim into the main. We can do so much damage with the time gained from these destructible rocks. Just remember things like that. Okay, so I believe it's here. So we kind of see that the Protoss wants this engagement, okay? His zealots are charging towards this marine, which unfortunately isn't going to do much. So we kind of see that the Protoss is trying to force this engagement, even though there's no like immediate pressure on him, right? So what we should do is set up the Liberator right here, and then take this army and just move it to the left. Just like box, box click. It's just like box click, box click. And then take the top army, just like box click, box click, to the right. And what this does, again, the same concept I was talking about here, where I was like, we need this C or U shape arc, okay? So what we're trying to do is emulate that, but in here, right? So we're trying to get this arc. And I believe I do have a replay of me and a Protoss practice partner kind of trying this, and I'll try and show you that if I can find the replay in a good amount of time. So as I say, this Liberator does come down. I feel like it's a bit late. These Stalkers can't really target fire it because of the bio underneath, but even here you can kind of see, okay, the Protoss is going to take this fight. He has to take this fight now. So again, it's just a case of like taking this army, stim like, you have to stim now because the Protoss army is too close to, like, move command this army to the left, right? So you kind of have to, like, box click, box stim click. Instead, we kind of take the decision to stim to the right. The Zealots, like, I feel like we kind of know where the High Templars are. So having our bio clumped up is fine until the High Templars arrive. So this movement here, I should have pressed another button, not that button.
Complete.
We could use some help here.
Okay, sorry. So this this movement here, where here we go. It's kind of selected these units and move commanded them here, right? This is like one thing that you see the pro players do, because you kind of want, like, as I said, I kind of want this arc, okay? This arc right here is what I want. If Storm is going to be a thing, which is going to be a thing, so yeah. So what you're doing is allowing the Protoss player to get free attacks on you if you move command now. So if we watch, like, this group of Zealots to the right and these Stalkers, they're probably going to get a few free shots on this army now, because, like, we've moved command to the right, so we get, like, a couple of swipes. This Zealot is doing damage, this Zealot is doing damage, and oh man, this is so scary, because we kind of, like, we move forward and this High Templar is right here and he has a Storm, okay? As soon as you see a High Templar on the screen, and he's close to, like, a big clump of bio, the first thing you want to do is just box click back, okay? Because, like, that Storm is going to hurt. Now, we know that this High Templar isn't going to do anything, because our Terran player gets a bit lucky in that maybe the Protoss player doesn't realise that he can get the Storm off. But he sees this High Templar coming forward, so it should be a case of, like, box click, box click, box click, box click back, as soon as you see this. And then you can, like, focus on, like, the more intense micro. Like, as soon as you box click back, maybe, like, swipe a few Marines and just send them to the left or something, and then concentrate on, like, this other army over here, because, like, this army isn't under immediate threat of the Storm. So, like, as soon as you've box click and, like, swipe a couple of Marines to the left, and then, like, concentrate on this army. So, like, select a few here and, like, click over here, click them, click back. Like, first you want to be doing, like, the broad steps of, like, box click back, and then do the more, like, scalpel. So it's like shovel versus scalpel. So first you want to go with the shovel of, like, box click, and then you want to go with the scalpel of, like, slice left, slice right, slice back, slice back, slice back, slice to the left, sort of like that. So we move forward, which is a massive mistake. As I say, this High Templar doesn't get a Storm off. We're quite lucky in that. Also, so this High Templar dies and we're quite lucky, okay? This Marauder has been the hero and, like, killed off the High Templar back here. But right here, I believe, is the biggest mistake. Is that we are now pushing into the Protoss army, okay? The Protoss army is not defending anything back here. Like, there's not a base here, there's not a base here. Every attack should have a point, okay? And not every attack has to end with an entire army dead, okay? So here, right here, we've got 3 High Templar, a Zealot, and 4 Stalkers, okay? This army could probably deal with that. So you could just, like, box stim, attack, move, and then, like, the rest of your army, which is the Liberator and the Medevacs, could probably just, like, if we knew about this third base, could go into the third base. Or, if you didn't know about the third base, could go into the natural, right? And kill probes. Because this is not a big army, but because of storms, like, it's really scary. So, like, moving into here, like, sorry, to come back to my original point of, you know, with attacks, there should be a point behind them. So what is the point of us moving forward here? Well, we don't really have a point of moving forward. We're not going to be attacking a base here, and we're not defending our position, because our position has already been defended. We have the bigger army. If this was a direct engagement without storms, this would just be so easy for the Terran, right? So we've defended our position here. I hate to use these words, but we have earned the right to do damage to the Protoss because we've won this fight. So what we need to be doing now is, like, just ignore this. Like, absolutely ignore this. Box the entire army, click into the natural. And then he has to defend the natural, right? And now he has to push up a ramp. If you wanted to, you could, like, have a concave around the nexus, or if you attack the third, you could have a concave. Yeah, if you attack the third, you could have a concave around here or a concave around here, depending on which angle the Protoss is going to be fighting. So here's our another big mistake by our Terran player, is that he is forcing a fight here when he doesn't really need to force the fight. And now he sees the High Templar moving forward. His camera is a bit back, I noticed, but he still sees this High Templar. Now, if you ever see this in a game, and the Protoss's army is, like, really small, and you see this High Templar moving forward, box, stim, back. Again, you want to be doing, like, the broad strokes first, like box, back, slice off, slice off, slice off, slice off. Because yeah, this storm is murder. Like, this storm gets the entire Terran army, and this shouldn't happen, okay? Say if we had, like, a bit of a concave here, like here, right? And this, like, say that this side of the army was just spread out beautifully, he would have only hit, like, this half of the army. And then this army just dies. Yeah, another beautiful storm. Again, if there was more of a concave, that you'd probably, like, storm over here. But funny thing about storm is that you have to hit quite a few to get Terran units damaged, especially if you have, like, quite a lot of medevacs. And he's got 4 medevacs, which I think is, like, one of the good amount of medevacs that you need. So, like, yeah, if this was like a concave, a storm comes down here, a storm comes down here, nothing dies. Like, nothing dies. And then, like, this warping of zealots is just murder. But even here, like, if we go to, like, everyone's view, this is only, like, 6 zealots. He's kind of injuring his stalker. He's coming forward with this zealot. He's kind of got, I don't think he's got enough for storm on either of these High Templars, and he's got 3 stalkers. He's kind of got 3 stalkers and 2 zealots here, but I imagine that he's forgotten about these. And we've still got quite a big standing army. The problem with it is that it's a bit overstimmed. But we still have this Liberator, so, like, we could just, like, box these, put it under the Liberator, have a bit of like a weird little concave under the Liberator, wait for our reinforcements to come down, and we could probably still do very well. One thing I noticed in this game is that our Terran player was kind of parade pushing units. Parade pushing versus Protoss is a bit of a weird concept, because like the reason it works so well in TVZ versus like Zerglings and Banelings and things is because there's no ranged units there. And what this means is like things coming down don't get shot at. Let me rephrase this another way, right? If we had like a big clump of reinforcements, right? Say a bit bigger than this, but like five Marauders, 5 Marines, 2 Widow Mines, and we're just pushing down the map. Like, they could do significant damage, whereas like parade pushing, you kind of have to be aware of the fact that you are parade pushing, and like go back constantly to about here and like select units and like attack move, select units, attack move, select units, attack move, every time we do a production cycle, because when they're coming down they'll be on move command. And seeing as the Protoss army is here and not like, if our army was like here and the Protoss army was here, like parade pushing to here would be a fine thing, because then they're joining the army and there's nothing standing in their way. But because the Protoss army is in front of us, parade pushing is not the best decision, especially with range units, because they can do damage from a distance, which means that you have to be more aware of like the select move command, and it's quite a lot of like spent APM instead of like doing the fight, like macroing back home, and then like coming back every now and then and just like box attack command, like box attack command, instead of like every 5 seconds like box attack sort of thing. So we killed the Zealot and Stalker. Still hasn't got enough to storm. He'll eventually make this into an Archon. But if we just camp under this Liberator, there's like nothing he can do. Like, he's got 3 Stalkers, and this Archon is going to take a long time to morph in. So we're kind of here, outside of our liberation zone. Why? Another point is as well is like, again, these rocks are destructible. Like, you could have cut off this army and then just had this to deal with, which is still quite a big army, but ours is bigger. Excuse me. We try and be cute. Doesn't really work. But I mean, we get good damage. And again, this is what I kind of mean about the fights don't have to end when one army is completely diminished, okay? So say for example, like we just got done with this fight. It goes kind of, you know, well, but you know, it gets a couple storms off. We take out this Zealot, we take out the Stalker, but what is so wrong in us just disengaging this Liberator, box, and then just click here? Like, we can say to ourselves, this army, the standing army of the Protoss, is probably going to really diminish our chances later in the game. So let's just return home with what we've got. Like, let's just load up into the medevacs and boost back. Just, yeah. And then we wouldn't have lost this army. and then this army would have come in handy in the next fight. Okie dokie. So this fight goes not too well, and then as we know, we kind of lose the game. I'll kind of analyse the next fight, but I don't think it's too worth doing like a second by second analysis of this fight, because I just think that the Terran player didn't have enough. I think like the Terran player could have won here, but it would have been very difficult, and especially because the Protoss is getting a 5th base, there's nothing really that the Terran player could have done about this. The Protoss player has 5 High Templar, sorry. That's a lot of Storm. Like, this is quite a big army for the Protoss, and this is quite a big army for the Terran. But, let's analyse this fight, okay? So, here we go. We kind of get... We don't get an EMP off, but this army right here is now move commanding down. Yeah. So if you're ever in this position, you should have like selected this army and then just clicked down, and then this army would have been shooting up here, and then the storm would have like eventually gone away, and you know, you could have attacked. But instead, like, this army gets stormed and basically like still move commanding, and basically dies for nothing. Oh, we did get an EMP off, okay. So yeah, I mean, without the other half of our army, like other half of the army just died for no apparent reason, and then this is just not enough to defeat this. Like, I don't think it was enough to defeat it originally because of the supply counts, but this is definitely not enough. So let's just go to town, put up a good fight. There's too many Archons, and that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna try and jump into a replay that me and my friend had. Okay, so we kind of let the build play out until this fight here, and I think this will be like kind of a good demonstration of what you're trying to go with the arc. I tried not to be too like cheesy with the high ground, because not always you'll get the high ground. So doing all the good stuff, don't you worry. Okay, coming up on it. Getting in the 3rd base. Doing the drop. Moving out across the map, which is awesome. Okay. So we do the thing. Get up there. Okay, so I believe this is the replay. Yeah, so me and my friend, both high diamond player, low master maybe, took command of our respective races. I took command of Terran, he took command of Protoss. He is a high diamond or low master Protoss player. I am a high diamond low master Terran player. So you know, this is generally how we want to play out the fight. So set up the Liberator. You can see like this is just as the engagement is happening, and this is what I mean. Selecting this army and just pushing it to the left before this fight, which means that the Zealots don't get any free shots off of here. Now I think that this Marauder doesn't get this High Templar, but that's fine. And again, like splitting off a bit of the army, move commanding back, and then letting them shoot from a bit further back. Now you can see, like, as I said, you kind of want this big arc, And you don't have to do it immediately, you just have to do it incrementally. So again, moving this army to the left, moving a bit of like my forward army backwards. Okay, so you can kind of see that I'm going for this arc, but I'm doing it incrementally while this Liberator is still doing damage. Like, this is why the Stalker's can't come. So yeah, the High Templars are coming, but really, what can they storm? They can storm this, they can storm this, but there's so few units in like each clump of army, and he decides to go here, which I think is the best position, and then I immediately move backwards outside of like the storm range. Okay, so I box click back. So again, like this army isn't doing anything. This should be like into the engagement, and you can see like the concept of like the broad strokes versus the scalpels. So I did the box click, and now I'm doing the like moving back of everything else. He storms the medevac, which is really good for him. He storms this army. I stim, which is probably not the best of decisions. Again, this army is not doing anything. I decide to chase, which is not the greatest of decisions. But you can see, like, this army was destroyed with quite a lot of standing army left. And this is because of the shape of the concave. Now, after this, like, the Protoss player thought that the game was kind of over and we were just kind of playing around. But this is what I mean about like doing damage. He's a massive troll. But you can kind of see that I defeat the army of the Protoss. And here's the big thing. I do not let all of my army die. I still have 5 Marines in one medevac and a Marauder in another medevac. This Zealot army may have killed me. I may have killed it, but I'm not going to take that chance. So I'm just going to boost back home. He's building 4 Nexus, standard. It's not standard, please don't do this. He builds another Nexus. But this is just because we were so rich, you know. But you can kind of see, like, I was macroing back at home whilst that was happening. And I believe... this is kind of a different sort of micro, so I might talk about it a little bit, but it's kind of... it's not something that you want to be doing too much. So, putting down the Widow Mines, but you could see like my army moving to the left there, army moving backwards, probably because I saw that High Templar and wanted to, and there's another sword. You see, okay, that was quite important. Oops. Okay, so here I move some of my army back because I see a High Templar, or I see a few High Templar. He storms this army, and then this army, I just select it and box back. I'll box here because I see some more High Templar, and what I'm doing is trying not to let this army clump here. Like this, if I just attack moved, like here or something, my army just wants to clump here. I'm not allowing it to do that. Now I've still got like this standing army here that's doing quite a lot of damage to the High Templar, so this army, like I could just load it into the medevacs and like boost into here and like just destroy all of it, but like it's just a preemptive move. And again, like the storm didn't really get much. and then from here, the Protoss is kind of dead. Mostly because he built 5 Nexuses, but let's not talk about that. Yeah, cool. So, one last thing I wanted to talk about is drop play. Okay, so this is another, like, it's a bit of a small aspect of this game, but our town player decides to drop once. This is fine. But okay, so he comes in, sees all these cannons. So, what do you do? Okay, so first off, you see 2 cannons and a shield battery. You know, and you've scouted this, like our Terran player knows this. Excuse me. So you know that this route into his base, or the Protoss's base, excuse me, is no longer viable. So what do? You look for alternatives, okay? So you can see that this group of buildings are powered off of 1 pylon. You see that this group of buildings is powered off of 1 pylon. This is quite powerful information because, as I was saying before, is like most people when they go for drops, they go for like the throat, which is the mineral line, which is kind of the target of drops. But drops kind of can do other things. So imagine if you just dropped here or something, right? And then just attack, move this pylon. He can't produce out of these 2 gateways, and you might delay storm. If you see this researching, which it is right now, oops, you know, you're going to delay storm, which is great. Basically what I'm saying is you could also like come this way and do damage to the 3rd if you knew it was there, or to the natural, and you know, if he has like a few cannons here, you could come back and like until he builds cannons here, and basically what you're trying to do is make him, or the Protoss player, excuse me, invest money or minerals into things he doesn't want to invest minerals into. So we've already made the Protoss player invest minerals into 2 cannons and a shield battery, right? So imagine if there was another like 3 cannons here, or like another 3 cannons here, or maybe 1 cannon, like a couple of cannons. This is great because like this is all minerals that the Protoss player could be spending into upgrades, it could be spent into units, it could be spending into another expansion, but instead of that he is building cannons because he is nervous about drops. Another thing that drops do is distract our opponent, so, and takes units away from the main fight. So if we continuously pound our head against this position, then obviously he's going to leave like 5 stalkers here to stop any drop play, so that when we get to this fight later on, then he'll have 5 stalkers here being basically useless in this fight. You know, another option, if you wanted to go down this route, like if you dropped here, you could go for either of the gateways, you could go for either of the forges, you could go for the Templar Archives, you could go for the pylon. Like my first reaction would be going for the pylon because I can see that it is like the one pylon to rule them all here, and I would be stopping upgrades, units and storm, which is huge. This pylon is powering like 3 gateways, a Twilight Council and the Cybernetics Core. Now the Cybernetics Core is not huge once you built it, because like you can still build Stalkers when this is unpowered, but you're still stopping them from building units. You could also like kill this one cannon and like get the Protoss player to rebuild it. Again, minerals into things they don't want to invest minerals into. Now he's also built these shield batteries at the front of this base, which is kind of confusing because the Terran player hasn't put any pressure on yet, but that's fine. There is one more concept I would like to kind of talk about here, and it's scouting. Okay, so if we kind of look, if we go back to say the 5-minute mark, right? So this is when our Protoss friend takes his third, right? Let's wait until he takes his third. Aha. 5:51. Normally it's a bit sooner. We won't worry too much about it. But what can our Terran player see? So we're building some add-ons, which is great. We're getting upgrades, which is great. Let's look at our Protoss's main base. Okay, we see the starport, we see something building, we see another thing building. So this turns out to be a gateway pylon and, you know, some other stuff. We see a nexus and an assimilator, we see a pylon. This isn't a great amount of information of what our Protoss friend is doing. Okay, so Terran has some of the best and some of the worst scouting in the game, in my opinion. The best scouting is the scan. You can't do anything to stop a scan from happening. So like if you drop a scan down in its main, you could see that he's building the 2 forges. He's getting something from the Twilight Council. Don't really know what that will be, but and imagine if we had this information, like he's building these 2 forges at 5:51. We could do an all-in. Like if we knew this, like right now we're at 500 minerals, we're getting these add-ons, we could slam down like 3 more barracks and then just do like a massive 2-base all-in where we just pull the boys and we'd probably win. We'd probably win because this Protoss player is being a bit greedy. Okay, but besides from scans, what do Terran players have? Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the Marine. I think the Marine is one of the greatest scouting units in the game, besides from the Zergling, because it's so cheap. And now, all you have to remember is that Marines cost 50 minerals, right, to train. Marines can stand at bases and just stand there until something happens. Now imagine we had a Marine here, a Marine on this base, a Marine on that base, and then possibly a Marine here, right? We could see half of the map, like right there. And what are we investing? Like 200 minerals. 200 minerals, and we get to scout when he takes this base, when he takes this base, when he moves out, and when he's knocking at our door. Okay. And this is great information most of the time because, like, you need to know when a Protoss is taking his third base, and this information is useful because this will let you know if the Protoss is doing an all-in or whether they're going more macro-based. So at 5:51, he takes the third base. We don't scout this, or our terran player doesn't scout this until like the 11-minute mark or the 12-minute mark. If he had a marine on this base, because it's like he's only sending one probe, it would have stopped the probe from getting this down straight away. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to know when this base goes down, and we know if it's around the 5-6 minutes mark that this is probably going to be a later game. And it also means that we are safe throwing down our third expansion and going into a later game. Now if this comes down, like if you don't see this coming down and you're building like your command center in base, then you know for a fact that it's probably going to be some sort of all-in, which means that you can cut SCVs, you can build some more barracks, and then defend at your front. Defend this ramp. But without this scout information, you don't know what is happening. And that is a big thing in Starcraft. Information is everything. Like, even the smallest amount of information can cost you the game. As I say, like, scanning the main, like if we scan like right here, we could see these two forges, we could see the 4 gateways, 5 gateways, Twilight Council, and Cybernetics Core, and we already know that there's a Stargate. So we could say to ourselves that, like, okay, seeing as he's getting these forges, this is probably going to be a macro game. Or, like, we could say to ourselves, let's not make this into a macro game and just kill him now by, like, putting down, like, 5 more barracks or something. Something, like, stupid. Do, like, a 7 racks all in or something. Something really strange like that. With 1-1, you know, with a couple of medevacs. Cool. So, as I say, these are just some things that I wanted to talk about. I hope that someone takes something away from this. And I'll see if I ever want to do another one of these. Thanks everyone.